What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Off the Wall. My name is Bogz with my girl, Soto. Today, how are you today, Soto?
Hello, hello. Excited to talk about this movie that's not doing so good in the box office, but is doing good in my heart.
Yes, that is a Blue Beetle, starring Xolo Mariduena and directed by Manuel Soto. We'll just give our initial first thoughts and we'll give obviously a review of the movie. First of all, I really enjoyed it. I came out of the movie really happy, so much fun. Latino family dynamic really worked in the movie and it served as the heart of the film and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Xolo Mariduena knocked out the park. Honestly, he did. He's got so much charm. You know, I love him from Cobra Kai. From the very first episode, I knew this kid's got something. And I'm so glad he got to headline, lead movie, you know, big Hollywood production, a superhero movie, and he's given the chance to do it. And I really hope he's kind of given the chance to do a sequel. Obviously, as you said, it's doing horrendously bad at the box office, and hopefully he can appear, you know, as a part in ensemble, maybe somewhere else, but it's unlikely, obviously, to have a sequel. But whatever role he does, I hope he has something in the DC moving forward. Obviously, there are several comic book elements in this movie that is very similar. From you can literally pick stuff out from other movies. I'm gonna say at least 10 movies you can see, you know, ranging from any of the Spider-Man movies, Iron Man, Venom, Black Panther, etc. But even having said that, I still really found the charm in this movie. Kind of can put that stuff aside, and I just enjoyed it for what it is. Just like a family friendly, really fast paced, really charming superhero movie. I also really like the hand to hand combat, the action, the choreography for the action as well. The CG at times was really good and impressive, particularly on a budget. I think it was $105 million, really conservative for a modern day superhero movie. And it seems like they used every dollar. And it seems like even just the cast overall was so invested in what they were doing and the story that they're telling. The suit was badass as well. Really enjoyed the creativity with all the different, you know, you can literally have anything you can imagine as a weapon. Again, it is similar to Iron Man, you know, in terms of the arsenal and stuff, but it was so creative. I wasn't sold initially on the trailers. The last trailer I did quite enjoy because it delved into the suit more. Pleasantly surprised. It was way better than I thought it was. And shout out to the director as well. I thought the overall movie was so fast paced. I was smiling throughout. It was funny, you know, family values at the heart of it. So, what are your overall thoughts?
I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I'm also a fan of Xolo Mariduena from Cobra Kai. Him and his family were the best parts of this movie. His abuela, who goes by the nickname Nana, which one of my grandmothers had that nickname as well. She was perfect. George Lopez is like the uncle who doesn't trust the government. I think like every Latino family has like one person like that in their family that is very much like, oh yeah, don't do that. Like the government is after us, the government's watching. Overprotective mom. Definitely a lot of like father son moments that were really great in this movie. The Latinoisms and the like Mexicanisms. I also loved some of the subtle messages in the movie, which like we'll get into later. There were a few nitpicks. Susan Sarandon was a little mustache twirling. The girl who plays Jenny Cord, Bruna Marquezine, I think that's how you say her name. She's Brazilian. She kind of was in a different movie than everyone else. Very dramatico. Like, and I looked her up and she was a lot of Brazilian TV, like a lot of Brazilian telenovelas. I was like, that makes sense with some of the acting choices that she was making in the movie.
We're going to do a full kind of breakdown of the movie and stuff, but I just want to mention first of all as well all the kind of Latino references and things like that, because obviously the director's Puerto Rican as well, so it was like a love letter to obviously Latino culture, whether it's, you know, posters on the wall or the Vic stuff. You know, I'm sure every ethnic minority can identify with that, but yeah, I'm sure you can, you know, list off what 10, 15 other things that you saw that is, you know, traditional stuff, and I just wanted your thoughts on that.
100% the Vicks Vapo Rub, which we call like Viva Poru, that got the biggest laugh out of my entire theater.
And the way he
Like,
wakes up, like it's like, you know, like a pepper thing, like, oh, yeah.
because like Vicks cures everything.
Mm.
Whenever you're sick, you put it on your chest, your mom's putting it
Yeah, I
on your
know.
back, you're putting it under your nose, you're putting it on
Of
your
course.
feet with socks on. Like Vicks is the cure for everything. Because they are a Mexican family, they have the Virgen de Guadalupe on like the wall in their house, they have a little altar for it. And I was like, yep, that's all of my Mexican friends. They have a Virgen de Guadalupe. Then also, it doesn't matter how old you are, Latino moms are always going to worry. He's literally has superpowers now with the Scarab, and the mom is still like, hey, come here. Like, you're not allowed to leave this house. It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what powers you have. Latino parents or Latino moms are going to be like overprotective and want to stand in front of you. And you even see that with the abuela. I'm going to stand in front of you and murk these guys. The teasing, that's every Latino family. Like they were teasing him for like him liking Jenny or other things in the movie. One thing I love about my people, as in like Latinos in general, is the worst things can happen to us and we're still going to celebrate and have fun and party. We're going to go out for tacos and we're going to celebrate that you graduated even though we're losing the house, and oh, let's celebrate the good things in life. Let's not focus on the bad. We're going to if you listen to some of our music, like the lyrics are really sad and everyone's just like dancing and having a good time. Seeing that being portrayed in this movie was very much of like, yeah, every Latino can see that and be like, yeah, we've had good times even through bad times in our life.
The opening of the movie, we see Susan Sarandon's character on the hunt for the Scarab, who is her name is Victoria, I believe. That Victoria Cord, the sister of Ted Cord, which we'll come to later, has a big involvement in the movie without actually appearing in the movie. Yeah, just to confirm as well, this is 100% spoilers. Spoiler review. Then we cut to the intro credits where we do get a kind of graphic of the Scarab and how it kind of travels through space and how it comes to Earth. We see other colored Scarabs as well. I think there's a purple, a yellow, and a green one. The blue one bounces off the green one as well, and there's like an electric surge off it. I don't know if that's a reference to something that happened later, or if there'll be other kind of beetles about. Will we ever see that? Who knows? But I did definitely notice that. So perhaps maybe the blue one's malfunctioning, and obviously it didn't get addressed in the movie or anything. Maybe it's kind of supposed to do something worse to the host, but we didn't obviously see any of that. And there's obviously newspaper clippings as well from the Daily Planet, the Blue Beetles in the past as well, and Mayan culture as well. The Blue Beetles attached to the depictions of the mines and things like that. So it's obviously old, has a lot of history to it, and newspaper clippings of Ted Cord and things like that. So from the jump, a lot of kind of lore building around Blue Beetle. And then we bring up to kind of present day, we see a plane landing. It's Jaime Reyes, and the city's called Palmyra City. I quite like that as well. Like he has his own fictional city, like Batman has Gotham, and Superman has Metropolis, and the Flash has Central City, of course. And he obviously is graduating from college. He kind of arrives home. It just seems like a hybrid of Latino culture. And then we see Jamie find out about his dad. He's recently had a heart attack. They're losing their house. It's super positive. He's trying to fix things and trying to find, help his family. But he gets a job as a cleaner initially at a country club. And at this point, it can be argued that the movie does move quite slowly then, but I quite like the slow pace because you're getting to know all the characters, who's what in the family, what, George Lopez is conspiracy theorist, and the relationship with the father and the sisters and things like that. And shout out to Blame It on the Boogie Spanish version, which I definitely caught and got a little pop from me in the theater. But what are your thoughts on the opening of the movie and meeting the family and all that?
Opening that we have of like the newspaper clippings and kind of like the scarabs of like in the past really felt like a spy thriller or something of that nature, that's what we're going into, because we've seen that kind of opening of where like it's a spy movie and you're like building it up by like clues here or there. So that was a very like interesting way to start it off. Kind of laughed a little bit of the music choice of Atrévete Tete, like as he's coming in from the plane, like landing in Palmyra's City. I was just like, this is a bop and I'm here for it. And then Blame It on the Boogie in Spanish too. I was like about to mouth the English words, and then I was like, wait a second. A lot of times in movies when Latinos are cast in them, we are maids, house cleaners, nannies, kind of that's the stereotype, and that's the only role that Latinos have had. That and like gangsters and um,
Drug
cholos,
dealers and
drug dealers, bad people. So it kind of like threw that on its head. It's just like, yeah, he is going to be that for a very little bit. And I kind of saw that as like a little nod of like, yeah, this is what we used to be in movies and TV. And actually, instead of be quiet and be in the background, he's gonna speak up and try to, also because he has the hots for Jenny, but he's gonna speak up and like try to defend her even though he has no idea who this chick is. Yeah, the beginning is slow, but that's when you're really getting the meaty stuff of the family and him getting all that information and him going, "Why didn't you tell me earlier? Like I could have came home, I could have fixed things, I could have like been here." And that's kind of another trope of Latin families keeping things from you so that way, because they know you're going to stop what you're doing to try to fix it or try to come home, and they just like don't tell you until like you've graduated, or don't tell you until you've accomplished the goal that you wanted to accomplish. For they're like, "Oh, by the way, I had cancer." Like, or, "Oh, by the way, dad had a heart attack, we've lost the business and the house, but yay that you graduated."
Once the Blue Beetle has contact with Jenny Cord, we see the Scarab kind of find its way to Jaime. And at that point, obviously, he takes it home and everything. And then we see the kind of awesome scene, body horror sequence, if you will. It kind of absorbs him and it becomes like symbiotic with him, obviously similar to Venom, etc. But I was like creeping out almost in the theater watching it, you know. Obviously you do see a little bit in the trailer, but no way did I think that'll go that much into kind of the horror, borderline horror. And I like his performance. You know, he screams a lot in this movie, you know, when he's using the suit and, you know, when he's getting emotional stuff. But I really like the way he does it. The CG was fantastic, you know, and the family obviously adding to it as well. Some of their responses sometimes were like a little a bit cheesy, a bit on the nose, a bit tropey and stuff. But the actual visual and, you know, the performance, I like the way like he doesn't have like, it destroys all his clothes. Like it happened a few times as
Yeah.
well, you know, his trainers and everything. And I like the way they didn't fix that. Like, oh, this is what
Yeah.
happens. They didn't have like, oh, Jenny has like a underpants for him to wear under the
Yeah.
suit or something stupid like that. So I like the kind of genuine way the suit kind of takes over, or the Blue Beetle takes over. What do you think about the transformation and the body horror?
You see the body horror and the going up out of his shirt and like changing him, and it's been done before in like shows and movies where like it destroys the clothes in the process, but then like their clothes are completely fine when they're out of the suit. So I really liked that attention to detail. I agree, his performance good in that scene. The family, it was just funny. So because the family was there, that made that scene more enjoyable and better for me personally, because I didn't have to watch a horror movie.
And we also established that he's actually the third Blue Beetle, and we'll delve just a bit into that, obviously kind of preceded by Ted Cord. And that's explained through the relationship that Jenny explains. Obviously, Jenny Cord is the daughter of Ted Cord. And we see like kind of a bit later on, obviously, an emotional scene with her. And she explains, you know, being the daughter of the superhero, her mother died when she was 6, and her father was used to kind of go disappearing a lot. Eventually, he kind of disappeared one day and never came back. Culminating that, we got probably the funniest scene in the movie for me, where they're at the point of kissing. You know, George Lopez's character walks in on them, interrupts them, and then he says something quickly. Like I forgot the exact line, but something like, "Oh, her mom died," or "Her mom just died," or something like that. And I literally burst out laughing. Like it was straight out of Cobra Kai. Like that's the exact humor. You know, saying inappropriate and then being like, oh, like so disappointed in
He was
yourself
very Miguel in that
for
moment.
saying, yeah. To be honest, he's basically Miguel in this movie as well, to be honest. But yeah, it was straight out of Cobra Kai. I love that moment. We see obviously George Lopez in the Ted Cord's basement originally, the original Blue Beetle, explain who Ted Cord is. And he was a Blue Beetle originally for Palmyra City. And he explains that he was their superhero for them, like Batman is for Gotham City, etc. That also is, you know, referencing the Flash and Batman, but not being too specific about who's playing who, you know, when, or didn't explain you know, any. So just establishing these characters in this universe, you can't tie in the DCEU and obviously projects moving forward. So I appreciated that. And obviously a few other references. Jaime's wearing a Gotham, was it Gotham College hoodie or something? So
Gotham University, yeah.
George Lopez's character is talking about Ted Cord. In the movie, they mentioned the first Blue Beetle as well, which is Dan Garrett, which is Ted Cord's mentor. He had the Scarab attached to him, but when it was given to Ted Cord, he couldn't get it to attach to him, so he used the energy of the Blue Beetle to create gadgets and weapons, which we see later on in the movie, which is like the little shields and the fist thing that his sister uses, and of course the Blue Beetle bug ship, which was used way more than I thought it would. We see the weaponry that it has as well, you know, the fart spray thing and the bubble gum which Jenny uses, and it kind of refers back to the conversation that George Lopez was having when he was telling, you know, Jaime about the Blue Beetle, that he was a light-hearted character. He wasn't as good. He literally says he wasn't as good as Batman or anything like that, but he had a sense of humor. You could see by the weaponry and things like that he designed. I want to see more of this told, and I don't know anything about the comics. I never read any of this comic storyline, but it did kind of gain interest in me. You know, he's got like a lair there. You know, there's history behind it. You know, and the whole mythology about the Scarab and the ones that came, you know, before Jaime. I did appreciate that stuff. So I know you mentioned Jenny before. I personally do not have a problem with her because her character, she was driven, successful, but she was also emotional and caring as well. I quite like that, to be honest. So it never bothered me, her performance or anything. You're not the only one. I've seen it from a few different, you know, sources and stuff. You know, they have criticized the performance, but I generally was not bothered by her. I did think that they were going to make her another Beetle by the end of it. I was quite glad they didn't. I didn't mind it. I quite enjoyed her character, to be honest. But did you ever read any of the Blue Beetle comics or anything like that?
Never read a Blue Beetle comic. Frank Miller wanted to use Blue Beetle in a comic and they didn't let him. So then that's when he created Watchmen. And if you see like the flying machine that they had looks very similar to the Night Owls in Watchmen. Night Owl having like kind of that similar kind of gadgetry. Because I thought that it looked a lot like the Night Owls. Flying thing, that makes sense. I was able to suspend my disbelief a little, but it was kind of interesting that George Lopez's character could do all the tech things no problem. He was just like, yeah, I can.
I've got this on my truck, or I can use
Yeah,
this computer in this layer, or I can, you know,
yeah.
that was
And I
there was
was
a
just
lot of
like,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
To the Jenny performance, it's not that like I didn't like her character because she was carrying the scene of her like describing like her mom and stuff, where like those were more emotional scenes and she played that really well. But the rest of the movie, especially in the beginning of the movie, she's just a little too much over the top, a little too much of like in a different movie than everyone else, where you had the family aspect with, and then you have Xolo Mariduena and his, like the people that are playing his family, like seemed like normal people. And then you had the villains being a little over top, made it where when we were going to the villains or focusing a little bit on the villains, it was just like, go back to the family, go back to Xolo, go back to like the more fun scenes, because that's really where this movie shined.
Susan Sarandon's character, I wasn't too bothered, to be honest. But yeah, she is obviously a generic villain. They did give her a backstory, but she's basically evil for the sake of being evil, basically. Enjoyed her being sinister and evil and basic. That was fine. She was kind of heavily involved in the cord industry thing early on, but because her grandfather said that she's a woman, so he's going to give it to her brother.
His
I was
son,
like, oh,
yeah.
okay, that was it. And she obviously envied her brother and took it over and wanted to have versions of the Blue Beetle called, I think they're called OMAC or something.
Yeah.
And then they were going to be attached to soldiers and have some kind of super soldier army. Yeah, this is obviously generic stuff, but I did quite like Carpax, you know, as just a thug initially, but he was given a legit backstory. Jaime could see, you know, his past, and he was like a kid from a foreign country, and he was like a child soldier, like kidnapped, and then
Yeah.
his family died. I was like, oh man, you know, I felt that. Again, generic redemption arc and stuff, but I did enjoy that. Oh, okay, he's a prominent villain and in the movie a thug, and he gets a backstory. I thought it was legit. Pleasantly surprised by that. So I was fine with Susan Sarandon's generic villain. I loved all the fight scenes. Action was cool. You could, even though a lot of it was at night, you could see, especially superhero movies, you can't see half the time. You know, the CG was fantastic, especially the imagination being used to create all the weaponry. It was just really fun to see what they come up with, whether it's the swords or the blasters or kind of flying. I thoroughly enjoyed all that. I was super impressed, especially on a smaller budget and all that. I was smiling throughout. I just liked him beating up thugs. I did wish they delve into and explain the symbiosis between that. Yeah, obviously the whole suit thing, talking to him, it is obviously straight out of, Spider-Man Homecoming, but I do wish we got to see more of the suit's kind of personality with him and that bond, and them kind of fighting to establish, a bit like in Venom, establish authority and stuff. We didn't get enough of that. It seemed like the suit was like robotic almost. Yeah, what do you think of the action in the movie, the CG and the suit?
The creativity of just the suit, you can kind of create anything you want, kind of like the nanotech with Iron Man, anything your mind can think of. And then a lot of the fights, especially when he gets that really big blade, felt very much like anime action scene to me. You could clearly see it. They're fighting, they're having these awesome action moments. This is how we want action scenes to be done. Like this, like the John Wick movies. Like you said, too much like recently, we've had action scenes where it's just like CGI blurs fighting
Yeah.
each other. Fights were mapped out well. Like it all made sense. I was like, yeah, whoever was the stunt coordinator, whoever was the fight coordinator, like props to you.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of care and attention went into that stuff. And, just got into the couple emotional scenes kind of got me in this movie, where because it was set up so well earlier on with the family, you got to know everyone. Then the scene when, well, there's two scenes really I want to talk about. The first one is when Victoria Cord kind of goes after Jaime's family, and he's with Jenny and his uncle on the kind of rooftop, and then he flies it, and then he thinks, oh, okay, they're going after my family. And then at that time, they're going after his family. The house is burning. When he gets there, he's not too competent in the suit still. He gets beaten by Carapax, whatever his name is. And like, I actually thought, how's he gonna save them? Like, and then his dad had him in the heart attack. Yeah, you could see that coming. They did reference the heart attack a few times, so you knew it was coming some point in the movie. But like, his dad's literally dying. He's tied up, screaming. His house is burning. His family's crying. Like, I was like, yo, like this is game. Like it just kind of built up so quickly because it was so built up earlier in the movie, the family values thing, and his family is screaming and crying, and the house is burning. Talk about the house, couldn't do nothing. He was being tied up. I felt that. I felt that. I was like, whoa, like this is escalated from just having like a laugh and a joke, trying to fly off the roof to like minutes later, and then he arrives and he's like, oh, sorry, I'm late, mom. Like, I was like, oh man, like everything's being destroyed, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm late. So he's like, he's doing his best again. Like he does the same thing in Cobra Kai. Like he's so sweet and empathetic, and he takes responsibility, like he's doing in this as well. And to elaborate on this further, the scene with the dad at the end was so good. Yeah, it is straight out of Black Panther, to be honest, but. And the CG wasn't fantastic as well. It did. I think I went some of the CG in it, but like they're both like crying with each other, and obviously it refers back to the conversation he had with his dad about what's our path and stuff. And he literally says, this is my path, to guide you. I'll always, obviously a bit Star Wars-esque as well, him saying like, how do I make decisions, and I'll always be with you, that kind of thing, very Obi-Wan like. And he's crying and then reaching for the suit. Like I was like, yo, I felt like I might like, yeah. So yeah, that definitely, I had a lump in my throat, like with his father, and his father like disappears, and he has to reach for the suit, and his suit saves him. And again, it goes back to the heart and emotion that was throughout the movie, and it definitely worked for me, and it got me. What do you think, so of the emotional scenes? First with the family scene, with the kind of Victoria kind of attacks his family, and then the stuff with the dad.
Family has so much heart in this movie, and it's really what carries this movie and makes this movie so enjoyable. You're seeing throughout the movie that this house is very lived in. The family pictures, you're seeing multiple different rooms, like it's very much a house that is full of love and care. Uh, Him and his sister sitting on the roof in the beginning, and you could tell that they've done that probably their entire life. Him coming out and speaking to his father, and the napals that were grown, like we grew this when we first moved here, and then now look at this plant here. And that's then referenced later when the grandma Nana puts like a new one in a pot to grow. And so then when you're seeing that house on fire, you're seeing just it was a that scene was so like dramatic in a good way. Like you're like, wow, all this like stuff is
It
going
was
on. How is
quick
it
as
going?
well. It was like bang,
Yeah,
bang, bang, bang. Things were happening. I was like, how's he gonna save them all? Like I was like
right.
shocked. Yeah.
And he's tied up and like
Mm,
being taken away, and even to like Nana going, "There's no time for tears right now," and then later saying, now it's
right.
time for tears." Those emotional moments where like I was just like, "Oh my god," because it really does go back to this like earlier scene with his father, which I was like getting a little choked up earlier, and then I was really choked up with him and his father in the
Dream
afterlife.
sequence. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of him there being able to tell his father that he loves him, like,
Yeah, because he never
even
got
though
to say goodbye. That was the thing.
yeah,
Yeah, and he was literally tied up. I was like, at least give him a chance. Just let him say, yeah, let him
yeah,
like speak to him. But yeah, he couldn't. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So he got to say it in that sequence there, and "Te amo, papa." I was just the emotional beats with the family like really hit me. You spoke to it earlier, the villain guy who's in the suit, his backstory too, and getting a little bit of that. I kind of wish we got a little bit of that backstory
Yeah.
earlier
Mm,
in the movie,
mm.
but that was just like emotional too in the viewing. I wanted more of that because then you really did feel for his character. If we would have gotten that emotional story earlier with him, that could have made the villain side more interesting in the beginning of the movie. Where I feel like now, if I see this movie a second time, I'm gonna know that emotional aspect and it's gonna make the viewing better whenever the villains are on screen.
Yeah, honestly, I think Xolo's performance is super underrated. Like, his dad's dying and everything, and he does the action scenes, and then he does the charming stuff, and he does the humor as well. He can do it all. Like, he's so talented, and I really hope his career kind of skyrockets because from all the kids in Cobra Kai, he's the only one that's kind of led a Hollywood feature. You know, they're all kind of doing indie stuff or other TV work. So he's the only one that's got the shot. So I'm glad that kind of everyone else can see him. But back to the kind of final fight scene, obviously it's very intense. Obviously, you know, he's because during that fight scene as well, he thinks his uncle dies, so he uses the suit, you know, to its kind of full power and blasts Chiropractor's character because he's got his own suit now because you know they extracted something from the Beetle's energy. He's got the half mask thing again, straight out of Spider-Man. You know, he literally has that when he fighting the Green Goblin and stuff. He loses control and he has to get control back again straight out of Spider-Man. But I did feel the emotion, obviously, when he got the backstory. I even liked the whole thing with the mother and the son on the necklace thing. That was kind of sweet as well. You ended up kind of having empathy for the thug because he was big and intimidating throughout the movie, and then you know he's soft at the end.
Because you originally think that's his wife and kid
Yeah.
in the movie,
Mm.
and then when you find out it's him and his mom.
Just at the end fight scene, and then yeah, he kind of drags Susan Sarandon just off, and then the suit explodes. That was a bit weird, yeah, sure. And then Sholo was just watching them like, okay, I'm getting out of here, let's go.
And
So
now run.
yeah, exactly. No, that was weird. I'm not gonna lie. And then, but
Yeah.
I literally want to watch some of them action scenes again. I'm definitely gonna go back to watch this movie just for the choreography. The fight scenes are super fun and all the effects and stuff. But the ending, obviously, I'll just quickly comment on. Yeah, obviously they get the house back, you know, by Jenny and things like that, and they have the funeral. And I did get, and the other time I actually laughed out loud was the whole when they're flirting on the bike, and he's like, "Oh, I'll give you a ride and stuff." And then this the suit. That's the only time the suit, like I laughed at the suit commentating, "Oh,
Yeah.
there's something in your pelvis or in your groin area," and he's like, "Shut up," you know. So, you know, and he does comedy great. I feel mid-credit scene was obviously the Ted Cord trying to call his daughter, and that kind of refers back to throughout the movie. There was a big shadow of this Ted Cord, Blue Beetle character,
Mhm.
and you know, from all the teasers I got, I kind of want to see more of this character.
Yeah.
Especially this is supposed to have, you know, a good sense of humor mixed with the now, you know, new Blue Beetle. I'm interested to see a sequel now, or at least the continuation of that story, you know, with Ted Cord and Jaime Reyes together. Yeah, I've got some negatives which I'll discuss now, but firstly, you know, I thought this movie was better than any Marvel movie that I've seen the last few phases, not called Spider-Man. So that's any Spider-Man movie except for them. I had such a blast with it because I got it. It was simple. You tried to do something. I just got it. Did everything work? And no, but it was so much fun, man. Like you could watch it again and likable cast of characters, emotional heartbeat throughout the movie. The jokes made me laugh. I laughed more in this movie than I have done in the last two Marvel phases combined. So um, family loyalty, self discovery, coming of age. CG was good. Like I just had a blast with it. Feel like it's 4 or 5 years too late though. Like if this came 5 years ago, I think it would do really well at the box office.
I
Um,
agree.
at a time where superhero movies, people burn out superheroes now. There's too many.
Hmm.
The gone are the days where you can release a superhero movie. It's an unknown character, and I hate to say it, a kind of unknown actor. There's no big star in this movie. Can be a
George
superstar.
Lopez.
I mean, he was big. He was big, but not
I know.
anymore.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
joking here.
it's been set up to fail, especially to be ask people to be invested in a DC movie where it might not lead anywhere. Yeah, I believe James Gunn has commented to say that this character will appear in the DC moving forward, but people are in an unknown territory now. So it's so much up against it that I'm not surprised it's got an extremely bad box office. Yeah, and obviously I got a comment on the plot conveniences, the coincidences. They were really rough sometimes. Like George Lopez's character can build everything, can fix everything. He literally has it with him, and everyone at the end, all his family can just use weapons, and like the mother was driving the Blue Beetle ship, the Beetle
Yeah.
ship at the end. Just things like that. It was, oh my, come on, guys. Yeah, so many of them. Like every few minutes, there was something like that. If you're looking for negatives, I mean, it is, these are glaring things, but that because of the charm, because of the fun in the movie, I look past it. Overall, I did like the direction, the pacing of the movie as well. Every scene was like fun and fast paced and moving along. I didn't feel the length at all. I kind of feel a little bit sorry for the movie, to be honest. I feel like it's going to be forgotten about as well quite quickly. In terms of the whole DC landscape as well, with the ending of the DCEU and the starting of the new, it's just like the in between phase, along with maybe Black Adam and the Flash. It's gonna go disappear into nothingness basically. And this is better than any of their movies overall. So, what are your comments and final thoughts?
In between movie where it could be a part of the DCEU, it could be a part of the new DCU, but if it doesn't do well box office wise, I don't think this character is coming back. I feel bad for Xolo and for this movie. I think it's going to do well in streaming, hopefully. This is one of those movies like a Phase 1 Marvel movie where, like, yeah, there's some convenient parts of the movie, or yeah, it's like, it's not a perfect script, but it has so much charm and heart, and the people working on it really care about what they're working on that you can ignore some of the random parts that are plot conveniences. The people that are working on it really care what's going on. Been lacking in these superhero movies as of late because they're like, well, people are going to watch them anyways. So there's not as much care put it into it, where so because you don't have that care, because you don't have that charm, you are gonna nitpick things to death. But because this has charm, because this is an enjoyable film, we don't really care.
I mean, I definitely do care that it has them things, but
Yeah.
I overlook them because of the good effort
Yeah.
that it really tried to push like good family values, a certain culture, and the CG work, and the good outweighs the bad for me. But a couple more things I just want to mention that I really think the marketing was really low on this movie, like just the overall advertisements on it. I think it was hindered that way as well. Inputs on social commentary, whether if it was brought up throughout the movie, whether it's being disadvantaged, discrimination, being looked down upon by other people, the rich, for ethnic purposes, whatever. There's some really interesting things there that they could have done,
Yeah.
and they haven't, and they just didn't in the movie. That it's literally lines, or like it's just brushed upon and it's not addressed. And I really wish they did do that, because it'd be really brave and it'd be really unique if they
Yeah.
did. But as opposed to just references or quick mentions, oh, we're just like them people over there, and then it's not addressed for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Like I was disappointed with that, and I would have personally liked to see that they mentioned, but they didn't delve into any further. But I know you mentioned some things earlier on, but do you want to
Yeah.
mention talk about the social commentary on it?
For me, I was just glad that it was there, and it was subtle. It doesn't take away from the story. Where they're on the edge keys is where they live, which is the poor community, the people of color, and then you have Palmyra City, that seems to be where the affluent people live. I loved the community coming together in the end too, which that is real life a lot of times, that when you do live in those types of communities, like, you do come together to help your fellow neighbor. To the subtle thing of, like, the person pronouncing his name, calling him Jamie, him correcting that person saying it's Jaime, and then her going, "Okay, Jamie," and that happens, and it's just like, yeah, that happens all the
Yeah, but
time.
like that's what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, sure, it must do. Yeah, it happens with me. With my actual
yeah,
name. Like, trust me. But um, like just that, for example, that scene that you're talking about, he was wearing a suit. Okay, he wasn't in an
yeah,
overall. He wasn't a delivery guy. Clearly, like for her to say,
yeah,
"Oh, the deliveries are there," like no, like he's wearing a suit. Like,
yeah,
come on, like,
yeah,
do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
like, I understand what they're trying to do, but it wasn't executed. Like, do you know what I mean? Just to
yeah,
do a mention of it for me, it's not enough. And like, I feel like, as you said, you're correct. It's subtle. I would prefer, if you're gonna do it, do it. Meaning that if you're gonna address these things, make it a part of the story, because that's how you kind of change the narrative, or that's how you do something unique. Because just doing something subtle is, it's like maybe you're looking for a headline. It feels like
yeah.
a last minute script thing that they just decide, okay, maybe let's add a couple of lines here and there, or looking for like a to trend on Twitter. It doesn't seem
I
like an actual integral part of the story, which when they mentioned these things, I thought they were going to make it, like, but they didn't.
mhm.
And that's what I was a bit disappointed with, to be honest.
I can see it being a bigger part of the movie, and then the higher ups telling them to tone it down, because then too the movie would be labeled woke. I can see them being scared, and it would have been nice if they were a little bit more brave with it.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that scene when she says he had deliveries over there. Like, he's done
Yeah.
his hair slick back. He's got a nice
Yeah.
suit on. He's not a delivery. Like, why would you say the delivery's there? Like, why? But
Yeah.
yeah,
That
that
was
was.
dumb, but the Jaime Jamie scene, that was good. So it was like you saved it after you did a really stupid comment there.
But that has been our Blue Beetle review. We both really liked it. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next review.